Welcome to the Work System podcast, where we help entrepreneurs make more and work less using systems. And I'm your host, Josh Fonger. And today we have a special guest. We have Kristina Romasco. Kristina is the principal cake designer and owner of Dolcezza Custom Cakes, a boutique cake shop in downtown Brampton, where she designs and creates works of edible art for discerning clients. Kristina is also the head coach of The Baking Entrepreneur, a company devoted to helping bakers realize their profit potential through no-nonsense business advice. All right, Kristina, I'm looking forward to having you on today's show.
Thank you very much, Josh.
Looks like all of our technology is working good here. So let's start off. Let's start off by giving your story. How did you get into becoming the baking entrepreneur, and also how did you start your custom cake shop?
Well, it started when I really wanted a cake for my daughter's first birthday. And I was looking through, and this was just about the time, it was before YouTube, before Facebook, before any real social media. And there was TV shows that are just starting to come on TV about, Cake Boss and all those types of things. And I thought, oh, okay, I want that. So I went to my local cake shop and I said, okay, this is what I want. And she looked at me and was like, yeah, no, we can't do that. Sorry. And this happened like 3 or 4 times. You can have a round cake with a pink trim and we'll put her name on it. And that's all that was available. So I said, no, you know what? I can do this myself. So I went to the library. I took out books like you do. And turns out I wasn't as good as I thought. If I could show you a picture of that first birthday cake that I did right now, it was, slanted and the icing was dripping off the side. And it was looking back at it now, like I still get, heart palpitations. It was so crazy. But at the time I thought, wow, first of all, I can this if I tried. Mm-hmm. So I decided then that I would go back to school and learn actually how to make this, or how to do these things, how to make cake. So I took a very simple course just to, whet my appetite, see if I really did like it. And then I said, okay, I'm good at it, and I'm really good at it, but do I want to do this for a living? So I took a job in that same bakery that I went to that first time to ask for the cake. And they didn't recognize me because I had caused kind of a big stink about them not being able to do it. So luckily they didn't recognize me, but they gave me the job. And I said, I'll work here for 6 months. And if I like it, then I'll pursue it further. I ended up staying there for about 13 months. And then I went back to school again and I got my master cake decorator certificate. And I built my business slowly from there. So it was my daughter's first birthday. By the time she was 2, I had started my, little tiny business at home, but I still had 2 kids under 3 at the house. So I was building my business very, very slowly to accommodate the fact that I had 2 small young children. Mm-hmm. When they started school, then I ramped it up a little bit more. And when they were a little more independent, I got a little further ahead. So I opened up a little shop, renting some space from a caterer. And then I took it a step further and I went retail. And that was about 7 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So this is quite a long journey. But I think the interesting thing I like about this is that you picked something that you loved. And so you found a problem. You found a problem and something you loved, and then you just pursued it over the long term. I think a lot of people who want to make money quickly kind of miss out on that journey. So what did you learn during these transition years from going to doing it from your house to doing it in a retail location where you are now with actual employees? Like what were some of the transition points?
Well, I bootstrapped the whole thing. So there was that. I never went to the bank actually I did go to the bank, and the first question they asked me was, does your husband know you're here? And I said, you know what? Thanks very much. I'll find a different way. So it was learning to navigate those types of waters as well, having 2 children in tow and building a business, having to meet with clients. But also just trying to gauge time. How much time do I actually have? I became a master at time management because you have to be. So trying to reconcile all of those things into one while still maintaining a home life and running a business.
So what are some secrets to the time management that you learn? I'm kind of curious about that. Did you batch your time? Did you have a split schedule with your husband, or what'd you do?
There was a lot of time batching involved. When they were little, when the kids were little, it was a lot of working at night, and there's no glory in that. Absolutely not. um, but right now, it's more of working backwards from your deadlines. So knowing that you have firm deadlines that you can't afford to, you can't, postpone a wedding. You can't postpone when somebody's going to pick up their cake. So you have to work backwards, and you have to work with the medium that you're given. So you can't make a cake, ice it, decorate it, and do it all within 2 hours. Technically, it all works, but there's a lot of waiting time in between. So if you don't have those 12 hours at the first step, 18 hours at the second step, 6 hours at the third step, then you're going to miss out on something, and quality is going to be affected. So the first thing I talk about, even with my coaching clients or with my students, is learn to love your calendar, block it all out. And you have to find the right space and the right time and the right place to do those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the other thing, which a skill you've learned and you've mastered, is that the skill of never missing a deadline, and how that comes from working from the deadline backwards, and then adding lag time in between each step, so that no matter what, you're going to hit your deadline. So that's probably a skill a lot of entrepreneurs don't
Yeah, you
have.
always have to build in that time for the stuff that's going to go wrong. You can be as efficient as all get out, but you have to build in the time just in case, because when you're working with organic materials too, you never know what could happen, right? You could open up your eggs and they're gone, or they're bad or something. You have to build in that time to go back to the store, to the farmer, get more eggs, bring them in.
Yeah, I think that probably is a good one nugget of advice that I think a lot of entrepreneurs maybe should hold on to, is that if you're constantly feeling stressed, if you're constantly feeling like you're missing deadlines, if you're constantly feeling like you can't tighten the screws any tighter in terms of efficiency, it might just be because you have not spaced out the work like you've done over several days, and given yourself room for the unknown to happen. And when you give yourself a little bit of room, the stress can go way down because you're not strung so tight.
That's right. Now, what I have to work on is actually not giving myself so much space, and trusting that my team can, fill in the gaps when I think they can't. So if I think it takes 12 hours to make a certain product, and they say we can do it with 6 and have a lot of extra time, sometimes I have an issue with letting that go. But I've learned so far to try and trust them to see how much time they actually need and how much time they can build in.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about Work the System, just because you're currently one of the coaching clients, and we had a coaching session a few weeks ago, and I said, hey, I want you to join the podcast because you had an interesting story, because you're still early on in the program, where you actually made a big shift. Do you want to share that story about the kind of the shift in mindset and how that shifted with your team and what they were able to do?
Sure. So a few weeks ago, what happened was my daughter actually got sick. She had appendicitis. And so that entailed a trip to the hospital and surgery and her recovery, and then a subsequent allergy that she developed because of the medication. So that kind of put me out of commission for, at least in work wise, for a good weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried, and I was still, using my phone, and I was in contact with my team at the shop. But I was worried.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried about what was going to happen. And I kept seeing orders being updated, and things going out, and I'm thinking, what's going on there? They're taking more orders. How can we do this? There's not enough time. There's not enough space. Not enough. And when I came back, when everything was done, and I'm reviewing everything, because there were no major catastrophes, nothing happened. And actually, to the opposite end of that, it was such a success, if I can say that, with me not being there, because they were able to use the guidelines that I had put in place before, thanks to Work the System. But I had set aside some guidelines that said all decisions need to be based on these documents that we did. And they followed them. And then we had the best 2 weeks we have ever had in the history of the company. And that was just so eye-opening to me, to realize that maybe I'm a bottleneck in my own business. Mm-hmm. And I need to let go. Once I've set out the way I want things to go, let them do it. And I
Mm-hmm.
have an issue with that because I'm kind of a control freak. I think most entrepreneurs are to some extent. But that was an aha for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you helped me on a presentation that I was doing recently, specific to mindset. And I think hopefully entrepreneurs get that, is that you didn't just let your team do whatever. You had given them a company strategy, a strategic objective. You had given them some principles, a couple procedures, and you were still there involved. But then something bad happened, and this happens with any entrepreneur. Someone gets sick, someone passes away, whatever, and the fact that your company was able to do even better when you weren't there is, Sam Carpenter, author of Work System behind me, says the same thing. Sometimes when he's not there, sales go up the most. And I thought that was very fascinating.
No, for sure. And it's not that I haven't been through this type of situation before. So we've had, like you said, deaths in the family. And as someone who organizes things like that, that's me in the family too. I can just think of the last one where I was having to deal with, organizing receptions and all that stuff and cakes at the same time, and no one helping me at that time, or not trusting the people that I have to help me. So I'd end up, family all during the day and then working another 12 hours at night to try and get orders out or do what has to be done, because again, you can't change deadlines in my business. You cannot change them. So like I said at the beginning, there's no glory in working nights because you haven't either scheduled the time right or trusted the people that are working with you.
Mm-hmm. What have you, obviously the circumstances forced you to trust your team, but is there anything else that you put in place that made you feel like now you can trust your team?
Yeah, like even just setting out procedures. We talk a lot about things, how they need to be done. And sometimes I think, well, there's just a general understanding that this is the way I like things done. That's not the case. Writing them down and going through those things with the team has really shown me that nobody can actually read my mind. Who knew, right? That nobody reads my mind. So like even just orders into our order system, how to answer the phone correctly, how to, answer emails using punctuation, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all stuff that I've written down now and that I've seen change. So how people and letting people do that. I think honestly, it's just getting out of the way of what you, sometimes we say, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then we stand in front of everybody and say, but don't do it yet because I don't trust you. We have to stop. We have to stop that. We have to get out of the way and let it happen.
Uh-huh. So what did your employees think when they started seeing you, have documentation for how they should answer the phone or how they should do certain things? Were they rejecting it, or did they think this is a good idea?
They loved it. I didn't realize how many things I was just assuming. And when I showed them these documents, when we went over them, when we actually read through them line by line, even though I thought, okay, this is silly, everyone can read and, just go to it, is what I would normally have done. But then I'm like, no, let's just read through it and we'll talk about it after. And that's exactly what we did. And they're like, thank you. They were thanking me, which was not that wasn't at all what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So by them thanking me, saying, thank you for letting us know, for telling us this, for having it written down. And I thought, well, let's do it. Let's start writing, doing everything.
That's really cool. I think it's good for the audience to hear. Also, employees, staff are typically not entrepreneurs. They're different mindsets. So they want clear direction. They want boundaries. They want rules. Whereas an entrepreneur kind of likes to figure it out. Most people are not like that. They actually enjoy having that structure and that safety and that a calm environment where they know what to do. So that was interesting to see that happen in your own business. Very cool.
Well, it's also good for them. I think maybe we're a little bit of a different field than a lot of people, because most of all of my employees right now are actually working to become entrepreneurs. And I know this. So I know that they have their own small little side business, and I'm happy to help them with that. So when they see things like this, even if it's just second, third, fourth hand, they're actually gaining something. So them saying, thank you. Yes. Now we know what we want. Now we know what you want. in this business, but they're also, I think, taking it in and saying, this is what we should adopt for when we get bigger.
Uh-huh.
And I know that they're building their own business, and I'm cool with that. And they come to me for advice, and we go through all of it with them.
Uh-huh.
Them thanking me so that they one day can also build their own business. That's great. That's fantastic.
So what is that? What do you do in your? I don't know much about this. The baking entrepreneur is that. Tell us about how that company runs.
So that is advice-based and coaching-based. So I have people from all over the world that are asking me questions, asking to, have pick my brain sessions, where they're just starting out. And I only have 13 years experience, but for some people who have 6 months experience, that's wonderful. So they do want to hear about pitfalls, things that I've gone through, specific, like a lot of people have issues with pricing, and people don't value themselves as much as they should, especially women in any industry. They'll tend to, well, I'll start really, really low just so I can get the business. And that's not how you should start anything or any type of business at all, by underpricing so much. A lot of it has to do with finding the right pricing, pricing setup for their own business, how it works. And a lot of them, I don't really understand the specific markets, because they're, Africa or in the, Caribbean or different places all over the world. So I'm not familiar with their markets, but a lot of things are constant everywhere.
That's very cool. Well, the power of the internet. So what about what about your stress level now? So when did you first hear about Work the System and the book? Was it a few months ago or a few years ago, or when did you hear about it?
Well, actually, I'm part of an accountability group in Brampton. And so it's all women business owners, and we meet every week on a Monday morning. And one of the entrepreneurs in that group recommended Work the System, because I was talking about, I need some way to systemize. I need my employees to understand what I want. I don't know, like, it's not structured enough, and I like structure. And when it's just me, I'm very structured, but it's not just me, so I need help. And so one of these ladies recommended the book to me, said, go online, it's free, the audio. So obviously I did it audio because I'm driving a lot when I'm not in the shop. So I listened to the book. And then, so that was in probably February. And I believe I registered in March or April for the.
Okay. Oh, cool. Well, that worked out well. I'm always curious as to how people hear about it, because it's usually like that. It's usually through a friend, through a contact, through something like that. Well, very good. And so how has your stress level changed from maybe back then when you were looking for structure to now? And you're still in the middle of the coaching program. So is it started to go up, go down? How do you feel about the future?
Definitely go down. It has definitely gone down. I don't feel the need that I need to be there 24/7 or every single working hour that we have. Even just being able to do this podcast today, I just told them, a couple days ago, by the way, I'm going to be away for just a few hours. I might come in the afternoon because I'm teaching tonight anyway. So, if anything comes up, just send me a message. But before, absolutely not. There's all kinds of fires that you have to put out. There's so many things that you have to do, and so many things that I would have thought that I need to do. Whereas setting it up so that other people can do this, and I just have to get over myself and trusting that can happen. But I found a replacement for myself, and she's getting into that position. She's working into it. So I'm okay. I've taken, I took 4 days off to go camping.
Wow.
For me.
That's amazing. Well, you've really made a shift very quickly in your business, and it's not like you have 100 employees to delegate to. It's just a very small team. Well, that's great. So what does that mean for you for the future? Has it kind of changed your future plans for what you want to do with the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year I was thinking I was just going to sell the business. I was done. It was too stressful. And if I can get rid of it, I will. And I even listed it to sell. But, there were some people that were interested, but they wanted to change it. Oh, we're going to turn it into an ice cream shop, and we're going to do that. And I thought, what? No, I've built up something so wonderful. I want you to take it over and keep making cakes. We have orders into 2020. Those need to be, done. But then, I decided, no, let's try it again. I joined this accountability group. I can I can figure it out. And then work the system came. And now I'm actually planning, not even thinking or dreaming or wishing, but it's scalable. So it can get bigger in a very specific way, maybe not a fast way, but because I don't have to be there to do everything, it's opened up so many more possibilities of where this could go. So the future is looking very, very bright. And it'll be just about being able to employ a lot more people in my city and to support the community.
Very cool. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what it's going to be like, 10 years from now. Who knows? You could have, 4 or 5 locations open, and people you're training, entrepreneurs, could have their own shops. That's really cool. So before we sign off, what's one piece of advice you'd give other entrepreneurs who are kind of in a similar spot, maybe where you were a year ago? What advice would you give them to help them grow their business?
Sure. I would say develop your sense of trust. The first person that you have to trust is yourself, of course, but the second is your customer. Trust that they know what they want. Job is only to guide them into something that either you have or where they can get what they need. It's never your job just to sell whatever you have. Your job is to guide them, and hopefully they'll choose you. Usually they do, if you know what you're talking about. And then trust your employees and trust your team to make it happen the way you want it to happen, if you trusted yourself.
That's great. Great advice. Yeah, if you don't trust in that sequence, then you're going to be stuck in a kind of a nightmare. So where can people find out more about you, Kristina, if they want to look up more?
You can go to dolcezzacakes.com. And dolcezza, by the way, means sweetness in Italian. And it's DOLCEZZA cakes.com or bakingentrepreneur.com.
Okay. Well, Kristina, very good. Really enjoyed having you on and kind of hearing your story. A lot of this I didn't even know about. So I learned a few things, and hopefully those listening to the podcast, I learned that you can make it as an entrepreneur. Even if you start small, you can make great progress, just like Kristina did. And now the sky's the limit, now that she's kind of freed up from the day-to-day, which is very cool. And if you want a copy of the book, certainly you can go to workthesystem.com, get it for free, like Kristina did, or the download. Or you can get the physical copy right there behind me, signed by Sam Carpenter. All you have to do is leave us a review at any of the places you're watching this podcast or listening to it, and send us a screenshot of that review to info@workthesystem.com. And we'll be picking out one name a week and mailing a copy out to you. All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.